All right, friends, we are going to start chapter 9, and hopefully we can read chapter 10 as well. An ear-shattering knock jolts my eyes open. Not that I'm fully asleep. Elsie is still snoring, so I roll out of bed and drag myself to the door. As I turn the knob, another loud knock comes. It's Bertha. "You're late," she barks, pushing her way into the room. "Didn't you hear my knock an hour ago?" "You didn't knock," I say, annoyed and still sleepy. "I would have heard it." Bertha whirls around to face me. "You calling me a liar?" I'm about to tell her just how much of a liar I think she is when Elsie grabs my shoulder. "Must have overslept," Elsie says with a nervous laugh. "You do well to follow your roommate's example and own up to your mistakes," says Bertha. "You two should have been in the underground auditorium 5 minutes ago. I suggest you change into your uniforms, make those beds, and hightail it down there." She turns and stomps out of the room. "No way she knocked," I tell Elsie. "I know she didn't, but we're just trainees. She's picking on us because she knows there's no one we can complain to yet. Just wait until we've been accepted into a department. Things will be different, promise." Inside the small closet behind the 2 empty beds hangs 2 pairs of black pants, 2 neatly pressed white blouses, and polished black shoes. Elsie and I get dressed, brush our teeth, and make our beds in 2 minutes flat. We race up the hall to find the elevator. While we wait for one, I decide now is a good time to make things right. She's the first friend I've made in forever. I can't mess this up. "Hey," "No worries," she interrupts. You're forgiven. But how did you know what I was going to say?" "Your aura is white," Elsie explains. "Apologetic." I can't help but smile. "That's pretty useful." Elsie grins. "Has its moments." Finally, an elevator slides into view and we take it all the way down to what looks like a well-lit cave. Various tunnels with neon signs at their entrances veer off in a different direction. One sign says International Railway Station, Bureau of Supernatural Affairs this way. Another says Department of Hidden Places this way. Or is it? A lady comes running out of the largest tunnel. Her name tag says Secretary to the Chief. "Where on earth have you two been? The ceremony's about to begin." She throws an arm around each of us and runs us back the way she came. We follow the winding passage until we walk through a golden door set into the tunnel wall. A long, narrow hallway ends in another set of gold doors. As we approach, the hum of a crowd begins to echo off the walls, raising hairs on the back of my neck. How many people are here? We pass through this set of doors onto the floor level of an enormous auditorium. I was expecting something close to the fancy Jefferson Academy auditorium, but this place is more suited for a professional basketball team. Above us, on the ceiling of this great big cavern, are thousands and thousands of blue-green shimmers that I recognize instantly from my 5th grade world geography class. They're the same glowworms found in the Watomo glowworm caves in New Zealand. Wow, I never thought I'd see them in person. It's way cooler than Mrs. Varner's dusty film projector. I don't realize I'm standing in a total daze until the secretary gives me a tug to keep moving. The auditorium is dimly lit, with most of the lighting focused on the stage, where a stout white lady stands behind a wide glass podium. At the back of the stage, a massive green screen displays her round face and neatly trimmed brown hair. My eyes pop at the sight of the fish gills on her neck. Seated in the rows and rows of seats below her are kids of all colors, all around my age, and all wearing the same uniform. A camera flash blinds me. A swarm of faces, some encased, in glass tanks, some covered in fur, some with way too many fangs, quickly surround the 3 of us, hurling questions at me from every direction. "Amari, rumor has it someone's getting a Moonstone badge today. Is it you? Miss Peters, will you follow in your brother's footsteps and become an agent? If you join the Department of Supernatural Investigations, will you take up the search for Van Quish?" I freeze up, stuck between wanting everyone to know I'm here to find my brother, and hating being the center of attention. I just stand there, my eyes darting between them, until thankfully the secretary shoos them away. As she rushes me and Elsie down the aisle toward the stage, a full commotion breaks out in the seats. Kids stand to get a better look at us. Face burning, I pretend not to notice. The secretary seats us in empty chairs at the very end of the first row, next to a tall, blonde-haired boy whose posture is so perfect, he might as well be a statue. The creases in his uniform look sharp enough to injure somebody. He cuts a glance at me and then whispers something to the girl beside him. She snickers. I sink in my seat a little. What is it about me that turns people off so much? The secretary lady gives a thumbs up to the stage. The woman with the gills nods and steps to the podium. Let's get started. My name is Elizabeth Crow, and I'm Chief Director here at the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs. I'd like to personally welcome you all. There's not a cooler summer camp in the whole world. The auditorium applauds, and Chief Crow continues. The ceremony these young cadets are about to undertake is of the utmost importance. Each will be assigned a badge based on what we believe to be their current overall potential, but that's only half the reason for this occasion. The first law established by the very first Supernatural World Congress states that in order for one to be allowed entry into the supernatural world, one must be supernatural. For this reason, we will make each of you so... I sit up in my chair. They're going to make us supernatural? How? I glance down the row at the other kids, but no one else seems surprised by this. All of you possess a unique talent that we will enhance into a supernatural ability through an ancient gem gifted to us by the famed elf Merlin. For instance, if you are someone who is constantly being told how good a listener you are, once you've touched the crystal ball, you might find yourself capable of hearing through walls. Some of you will have a pretty good idea which of your talents will be enhanced. A great many more of you are in for a surprise. However, no matter the nature of your supernatural ability, rest assured there is a place for you somewhere within the Bureau. So we get a supernatural ability based on our talents, but I don't have any special talents I can think of, at least nothing that could be turned into something cool like listening through walls. Allow me to say just one more thing to those of you receiving lesser badges today, Chief Crow continues. While it's true that badges are important in identifying those children we feel will be extraordinary additions to our ranks, don't allow your initial badge to define your career with the Bureau. Hard work can improve your badge over time. My position as Chief Director is a testament to that. I was only awarded a wooden badge when I first arrived at the Bureau. She taps on the shiny gold badge pinned to her jacket, but now you can all see it's quite golden. So strive for excellence. Now, without further ado, let us proceed to the badge presentations and talent enhancements. Please let Elsie be wrong about me getting that Moonstone badge. The idea of having a badge higher than the Chief Director's makes me queasy. While we all clap, me a lot less enthusiastically than the other kids in my row, Chief Crow pushes her podium to the edge of the stage. From the other side, 3 men in dark suits push a hulking metal contraption front and center. Attached to the front is a crystal ball that stands around 5 feet tall. The ceremony begins with the notebook paper badges. A short brunette girl named Aspen Matthews is the first to be called on stage to shake hands with the Chief Director, who hands her a smooth wooden box containing her badge. Then it's over to the machine to place her hand on the crystal ball, which glows faintly white to her touch. The giant screen blinks and then shows talent enhanced to supernatural ability, orderliness to freakish organization skills. I turn to Elsie. Freakish organization skills? I know someone with that ability. If she was carrying a huge stack of papers and tripped, they'd all land exactly like she had them before, Elsie grimaces. She'll probably end up in the Department of Supernatural Licenses and Records Filing Papers. The crowd claps and Aspen is led off stage. Why would anyone want to be in a boring department like that, I ask. Well, some people do prefer easier, less dangerous departments, says Elsie, but usually it's one of 2 reasons. Either it's all you qualify for, or you make it to age 18 without passing any tryouts, and the Bureau just sends you to wherever they need people. Non-competitive departments like Supernatural Licenses and Records don't even have a tryout. My name still hasn't been called by the time all of the plastic badges have been handed out. Uneasy, I glance over and catch Statue Boy watching me from the corner of his eye. I quickly look away. He quickly looks away and then back to me. He says, I wasn't staring. Didn't say you were. Oh, well, good then. He turns his attention back to the stage. What's his problem? Even with my growing knot of dread, things start to get more exciting by the time the bronze badges finally roll around. Not only does the crystal ball glow brighter when touched, but rarer abilities start popping up. A grinning kid named Billy Pogo's knack for being in the right place at the right time becomes unnatural luck. While he's on stage, he gets a phone call stating he'll be inheriting his great aunt's golden fleece collection. Jonathan Zhang's talent is hiding, and once it's enhanced, he happily demonstrates by turning his body into clear glass. He announces to everyone he's aiming for the Department of Spies and Secrets. Elsie elbows me and says, betcha he doesn't know that he'll have to get his memory erased every time he leaves the department. A dreamy-eyed girl named Julia Farsight's supernatural ability makes her a medium, a result she seems more than surprised to receive. Elsie bursts out laughing when I ask if it's better than being a small. I don't realize my mistake until Elsie says that she'll probably choose the Department of the Dead. Elsie is one of only 13 kids to receive a silver badge, meaning I've either got a gold badge or the scary Moonstone badge. Chief Crow puts her arm around Elsie on stage and speaks briefly about the diversity benefits of having members who aren't fully human. She herself is half Atlantean. Elsie doesn't get a huge reaction from the crowd, so I make sure to stand up and holler, "Go, Elsie!" Statue Boy frowns as I sit back down. Not that I care. Badge in hand, Elsie moves nervously towards the crystal ball. She places her free hand against the crystal. It glows bright white, shimmering like a giant 100-watt bulb. Talent enhanced to supernatural ability, inventiveness to mastermind inventor. Elsie beams. Her talent doesn't surprise me one bit, but then having created the sneak handle and her own radio from spare parts, I'd have thought that she was a mastermind inventor already. It's no wonder the Bureau has such amazing technology. They turn smart people into geniuses. I tried again to think of something I'm really good at, falling asleep on the sofa after school. I doubt the Bureau would have much use for that. As Elsie returns to her seat, Chief Crow steps back to her podium. Only once every few years do we get the honor of presenting an elite badge, and yet this year we shall present 3. Dylan and Laura Van Helsing, please come up and accept your gold badges. Van Helsing? Why does that name sound so familiar? Then it hits me. My brother's partner. I nudge Elsie. Are those two related to Maria Van Helsing? She nods. Maria is the Van Helsing's twins' older sister. Their mom and dad are here too. The Van Helsings are one of the most important families in the supernatural world. Is that why Statue Boy was staring? My whole body goes stiff as another realization comes. If they've got gold badges, that Moonstone badge really does belong to me. So much for blending in. Laura and Dylan both smile and wave toward the flashing cameras as they make their way to the stage. It's easy to see they're used to this kind of attention. Loud applause and cheers ring out in the auditorium. Laura's polite grin bursts into a big toothy smile as she jogs up the few steps to the stage where Chief Crow swallows her in a big hug. Dylan does a better job controlling his emotions and gives the chief a firm handshake. The whole auditorium hears the chief tell them how proud she is. All 3 pose for a few more pictures, and then both Van Helsings are handed their badges. Dylan moves to the crystal ball first. His cool smile is gone. In fact, he looks scared to death. Guess I'm not the only one questioning what kind of supernatural ability they'll have. I lean forward in my chair, curious. Dylan shakes out his hands and touches the crystal ball with just the tips of his fingers. The instant he does, blinding light pours out of the crystal ball so bright I have to cover my eyes. Finally, his results show on screen. Talent enhanced to supernatural ability, makemanship to physics-defying aim. Sorry, that was marksmanship to physics-defying aim. Dylan looks as happy as I've ever seen anyone in my entire life. When his sister steps to the crystal ball, her talent starts off as fitness and becomes superhuman athleticism. Laura decides to test out her supernatural ability, doing a long run of impossible jumps and flips across the stage. It looks like the special effects from a superhero movie. The crowd goes nuts. After a few bows, Laura practically skips off the stage, her smirking brother right behind her. The lights dim further as Chief Crow returns to the podium. And now for a very special presentation. The reason I expect that we have so many additional spectators this year. Amari Peters, please accompany me on stage. Every eye in the auditorium watches me. Cameras flash like crazy. I'm not used to being the center of attention, not for something good anyway. The walk to stage seems endless. My hands shake as I climb the stairs. My flushed face takes up the giant screen once I step on stage. Chief Crow smiles warmly and puts her arm around my shoulder. It's very rare indeed that a Moonstone badge is awarded. Rarer still to have 2 in the same family. There have only been 13 in the whole history of the Bureau, and Amari here makes the 2nd Peters to receive the honor. The chief reaches into her suit jacket and pulls out a tiny wooden case. I present to you the 14th Moonstone ever awarded. She tilts it open and I peek inside. The round badge looks like a lot of metal without the ribbon. It's the size of my palm and twinkles in its case like a tiny star. It's the most beautiful, most wonderful thing I've ever owned. It's almost It's also the badge my perfect brother received, and all those accomplished Bureau members before him. I don't deserve it. Still, I take the case and everyone claps. Even with my doubts, I smile at the attention. Doesn't feel real, like it's happening to someone else. I spot Elsie bouncing in her seat in the front row. Then I spot the twins, both sitting stiffly, arms crossed. Jealous much? Now it's my turn to touch the crystal ball. I step past Chief Crow and frown. I'm suddenly nervous at the prospect of revealing something about myself in front of all these people. What if my supernatural ability turns out to be something disappointing, like superhuman knitting? I was really good at it when I was little. The truth is, I don't even know myself well enough to guess what it might be. But everyone's waiting. Reluctantly, I place my hand on the crystal ball, and nothing happens. Not even the faintest glimmer of light. There's a collective gasp from the crowd. Cameras begin to flash. I look to Chief Crow, but she seems as confused as I am. And then something does happen. A plume of black smoke appears, swirling and filling the ball completely. A crack reaches across the surface. I yank my hand away, take a few steps backward, so does Chief Crow. The screen flickers behind us. Talent enhanced to supernatural ability, dormant magic to active magician. Illegal. The auditorium erupts. We are going to stop there. I'm sorry, that was the end of chapter 9. I will read chapter 10 this week.